Hello and welcome back to another episode of this week's watches, and this week we have an incredibly diverse selection for you guys and girls, from Grand Seiko to Tudor to a vintage Enicar to some of the biggest watches we've probably sold in terms of case sizes, which is kind of interesting that we sort of mixed all these in together. And as I always say, this is what I aim to bring at Kibble Watches: diversity and something you've probably not seen before, right? Like every single drop, I try and at least have one thing that makes you go, wow, I've never seen that. Whether that be a positive wow or a negative wow. There's some stuff in here today which I think will be quite Marmite, as we say here in the UK, which means you either like it or you don't, which is fun. You know, I enjoy that kind of stuff because it's what collecting is all about. It's individuality and what you like to wear, and that's what we're going to be doing today. I want to say a big thank you. It's been an incredible couple of weeks. Last week's drop, a lot went straight away, so thank you guys and girls. Really great to see the interest and passion there for the drop, and I suspect it will be the same for this week, both in sort of the more mainstream pieces and the more left or right field pieces that we have. Now, before we start getting into the watches, as always, there is a link in the description, and I forget to say this every video, so I apologize if you're new here or if you've been here a long time and you know this already, but in the description there is a link to every single watch we're showing here today, as well as a timestamp. So if you want to skip specifically to see the Handheart, for example, you can do so via the timestamp in the description, and you can head over to the website to see the pricing, to see more details, to see photos, everything like that. And even if it's sold, it will still take you to the website and show you that watch, so you can go check it out and its details, obviously not its price if it has sold. Now that all of the rambling is out of the way, let's take a look at what I am wearing on wrist. I'm wearing a beautiful 1950s Wittnauer with a Valjoux 72 movement. This was actually a gift to my wife from myself, and I totally steal it as often as I can. I think it's absolutely incredible. Obviously, since having a child, our daughter, my wife doesn't wear vintage as much because wearing a vintage watch around a baby can be quite tricky, so she often wears her Christopher Ward, something a bit more robust. So it means I get to wear the vintage stuff when I come to the office, which is great. But yeah, that's what I'm wearing today, and I am loving it, wearing it on a green NATO strap, which I think looks pretty cool. So now let's crack on with what you're here to see, and we're going to start with the only vintage watch on the table. Arguably my favourite on the table as well, and I think a lot of you guys and girls, it'll also be the same. That is this very rare Enicar Jetgraph GMT. Really beautiful. Let's take a closer look. So what a watch to begin this week's episode with. What you're looking at is an Enicar Jetgraph GMT from circa 1969. Absolutely incredible, and a rival to the Autavia GMT from Hoya. At the same time, you'll see some similarities in design, though it definitely stands on its own. It is not a blatant sort of copy of that, far from it. Enicar had their own design and their own sort of ethos, and it was a very popular brand at the time, and interestingly has been bought back by a very cool guy who is doing very good things with the brand, and I'm excited to see what he does for the future. But back to this absolute beauty. This is an all-original Enicar Jetgraph GMT, as you can see. It even has the T stated above the 6 o'clock, hidden under that second hand, the chrono second hand. You have the very, very cool black and red GMT hand, which is fixed to the hour hand, so you can't individually set it. It is basically coupled as a 24-hour hand. You have the outer rotating bezel, sorry, and the red ring, which you can move separately as well, as you can see, so you can track multiple time zones with this watch, which is what was one of the main features at the time. You have a silver and black polished aluminium ring. In some lights it looks all polished, some lights it looks all black, but it is silver on the bottom, black on the top. You have your Enicar signed crown over there with the pump pushers, Enicar signed case back. It's in very, very sort of good condition for its age. You've still got the nice strong lines. It's one of the best examples I've personally seen. The specific reference to this one is 072-02-02A, and inside is a manually wound Valjoux caliber 724. So a modification to the Valjoux 72, the 4 indicating the GMT, and as I said, circa 1969. It doesn't come with any box or papers. It comes with a metal bracelet, sort of beads of rice style, which looks very good. It isn't a perfect fit, but it looks good on it, and at the end of the day you could swap this out for a strap if you so desire. but you can't deny how great this watch looks overall. A real beauty, and the dial and the lume is aged to perfection. Let's show this one on wrist and talk dimensions. And here we go, comfortably on my 7-inch wrist. Now, interestingly, at 40mm, this would have been considered a large watch at the time. There was obviously the Speedmaster and a few others at this sort of size, but for the most part, watches were considered to be, well, were much smaller. That was sort of the standard. So 40mm would have been big for the time and is very, very good for today. So 40mm by 49mm lug to lug, 14mm thick, and that is including that heavily domed acrylic crystal, so do keep that in mind, and 20mm on the lugs. Endless options. A nice black tropic or something along those lines would look fantastic if you're not a fan of the bracelet, which by the way will fit up to a 7-inch wrist, so any larger than that you will have to swap it out anyway. But a great watch, one well worth checking out, so go check it out on the website today. From an incredible vintage watch to an incredible everyday modern watch with the Tudor Black Bay 58. Quite interesting, we had the 54 last week, now the 58 this week. Let's see which one you guys and girls prefer, but let's take a closer look at this. Now on to a modern classic with the Tudor Black Bay 58, now rivaled with the Black Bay 54 for those of you who like a smaller watch. This one obviously still the classic 39mm size, still perfectly wearable, very, very comfortable and a great watch. This is the 79030N, and inside is the automatic Tudor caliber MT5402. Now this specific model is from December 2020, does come with its box and papers, and it is well worn, well enjoyed and well loved. So if you're looking for an example that you can just put on and use and not worry about putting any scratches into it, this is the one for you. If you're looking for brand new, this won't be the one for you, but do keep in mind we can have this polished up and refinished or refurbished, whatever you want to call it, to look like new again or as close to. Obviously some of the deeper scratches may be a bit tough to get out completely, but it will look 10 times better. So if you want that, we can do that at an additional cost. Just email us for the information. But yeah, a very, very good looking watch, and one you really can't go wrong with. I've spoke about the 58 a billion times, and I'll talk about it a billion more times because it is one of those watches that I get in regularly, either in the black or the blue, obviously. For me, the black I prefer over the blue. The blue is lovely, but it feels like a great summer watch, and then when summer's over, personally anyway, I wouldn't put it on that much, whereas the black is an all year round watch for me and is just classic in its design. And especially at the price point. Obviously the 54's just come out, still trading over retail, whereas the 58's are trading considerably under retail, and there's great value in that. So let's show on the wrist and talk dimension. Here we go, comfortably on my 7-inch wrist. You really cannot go wrong with this sizing. 39mm by 47.5mm lug to lug, 12mm thick and 20mm on the lugs. So endless options. It does come with all of its links, so it will fit up to a full size bracelet. But yeah, go check it out on the website today. Now on to the Grand Seikos. We're going to start with a Grand Seiko I have never seen before, and one I have totally fallen in love with. The dial is incredible. Hopefully I can do it justice with the video and photos, but this is the Mount Iwate. I think I'm pronouncing that right. I apologize if not, but a limited edition, really great piece. Let's take a closer look. Next up, a Grand Seiko I had never seen, and I didn't know I really needed until I saw this one. This is the Grand Seiko Mount Iwate. I apologize if I'm butchering that pronunciation, but it is the reference SBGR319G, and as you can see, you have this beautiful snow white dial with like lines within the dial itself, which is, I believe, is meant to imitate snow on a mountain and how it sort of transitions. I could be wrong on that, but do check it out. You have a vibrant blue second hand with automatic stated in blue. Very clean, very classic design. You really cannot go wrong with this one, and limited to 350 pieces. Now as we open it up and flip it around, you can see the movement right there with the Grand Seiko emblem proudly stated on the glass. This is the Grand Seiko Caliber 9S68, an automatic movement from Grand Seiko, done to obviously the highest standards. Now this one is from November 2020 with its paperwork. Unfortunately it doesn't have a box, and that is reflected in the price. This is an absolute bargain really for what you're getting. A limited edition Grand Seiko of 350 that is very rarely seen on the market. I had never seen one ever. I didn't even know this existed personally. So it's one of those watches you can be sure you're probably not going to see someone else wearing unless you're at a Grand Seiko event maybe and someone happens to have one, but even then I think that would be quite rare. Screw down crown as well, which is always nice. Just a very good watch and great value. So let's show on wrist and talk dimensions. And here we go on my 7-inch wrist. Now the bracelet, it doesn't have any additional links from what's currently in it. It will fit a 7¼ inch wrist. So if you do need more links, it will be a case of going to Grand Seiko to get more. Unfortunately, we don't have more, but what you're looking at is 42mm by 47.5mm lug to lug. only 13mm thick and 21mm on the lugs, typical Grand Seiko fashion, making it a little bit awkward, but there are plenty of options. And if anything, when you're buying a Grand Seiko, the Grand Seiko straps, if you are going to go down the strap route, is always a nice choice. So go check this one out on the website today. From that Grand Seiko to, as I've said a million times, one of my favorites, we've managed to get another one. This is a 2022 Grand Seiko Elegance manually wound. Really beautiful watch with the 3-day movement. This one I believe also comes with additional straps, but do check the listing and check the photos for that information. But let's take a closer look at this. Next up, another Grand Seiko Elegance 3-day manually wound. I've had a few of these, as I've said many times. It's one of my favorites, the Elegance GMT being my favorite from the Grand Seiko lineup, but this is just so clean, so classic, very reminiscent of early Grand Seiko and what it was all about. This is the SPGW 231G with, as I say, the manually wound Grand Seiko caliber 9S64 inside, which is a 3-day manually wound movement. It does wind forever, so do keep that in mind. It has basically a slip lock, so once it's full, it just winds past that. It doesn't overwind, so do keep that in mind. Some people, when they didn't know that, they feel like maybe something's broken because it winds forever, which can happen on some vintage watches when the mainspring goes. So that isn't the case on this. It's a feature, and it's so you can't overwind it basically. Just something to make a note of. The dial is this beautiful eggshell color, very classic and clean, with the Zaratsu finishing on the hands and the indices, which really pop. The case is in wonderful condition. This watch has been lightly worn over the time, and it's from December 2022 with its full box and paperwork and additional straps as well, which will be in the photos on the box shot and mentioned in the description as well, so be sure to check those out. But they show this one on wrist and talk dimensions. And here we go, comfortably on my 7-inch wrist, as you can see, and it has one of my favorite buckles of any brand. The Grand Seiko buckle is just so beautifully done, and the etching is just perfect. But anyway, back to the watch. So what you're looking at is 37mm by 44mm lug to lug, only 11.5mm thick and 19mm on the lug. So yes, a little bit awkward, but as I say, this comes with additional straps. So you're going to be set for life basically in terms of variety and options. The black is the classic, but the blue and some of the other colors that you can get from Grand Seiko really make this dial pop and really make it quite versatile. So go check out this watch on the website today. From there over to the Schofield Daymark, a very, very well-known Daymark, or Schofield, sorry, among Schofield collectors. This is one that people really aspire to because it's just such cool design, and again, it sort of epitomizes everything Schofield is. So let's take a closer look at this one. So now on to Schofield. A lot of you know we have had a lot of Schofields over the years, and it's a brand I love to stock. I just don't personally have the wrist to support them. Well, I do, but I think for my personal style, it's a bit too big for me personally, but I think they are fantastic. And again, the sort of Schofield way, Giles at Schofield, with the way he thinks and the way he designs, it's very it is resembled perfectly in his watches, and I think he sticks true to that in every way he possibly can, and I really respect that, especially in a world of watches where it often seems like people are creating the same things. That's what it seems like half the time. But anyway, this is the Daymark. Inside is the automatic ETA caliber 2824-2, as you can see displayed right there, and this one comes on a very nice sort of wool green strap with a vibrant green buckle in typical Schofield fashion. He does all these crazy colors on the buckles, which are really cool. The Daymark has the classic light lighthouse light hands is basically what they are, and you've got the beautiful indices as well. Just overall a very clean aesthetic in typical Giles fashion. This one is from June 2020 with its booklet, basically its papers. It doesn't come with its box, unfortunately. I'm sure Giles will sell a box to you if you're really adamant on the box. And again, we've reflected the fact it has no box into the price as well, so do keep that in mind. But let's show this one on wrist and talk dimensions. And here we go on my 7-inch wrist. These are big watches. They're meant to be big. They're meant to feel big, but they are incredibly comfortable, all considered. So what you're looking at is 43.5mm by 51.5mm lug to lug. Only 14mm thick, and that might seem quite surprising considering how thick it looks, but it's very flat on the wrist. So a lot of that is just the height of the side. and 24mm on the lug, so you can get endless options from Schofield. They do a variety of crazy straps, and obviously there's generic straps as well. You do have to unscrew the bar to get the strap out, and then obviously put the bar back through to the other strap. But go check this one out on the website today. From there, let's go over to something I had not seen before, and it is pretty damn funky, that's for sure. That is this Swatch Fly Magic. This is either going to be for you, or it's really, really not. And I think you're going to be either on either side of the camp. So I'll be interested to know which one you are. So let's take a closer look. So next up, the Swatch Fly Magic. As you can see, it has a modified System 51 inside, which has, or as they call it, the Fly Magic, which has the rotor on the front, as you can see. And in the center of the barrel, you can see proudly stated is automatic and the limited edition number out of 500. This is number 66, which is quite significant for some areas of the world. And the reference to this one is the YHS 101. This one is from February 2020 and comes with its full box and paperwork plus additional straps. The watch has been worn. There are some marks and scratches here and there, and one of the lugs does have more considerable wear, as you can see right here. Just something to point out, and obviously the bezel does have some scratches, quite difficult not to, with how high it sits and how prominent that bezel sits across. Yeah, very interesting integrated strap design in classic Swatch fashion, but done to a much bigger, bolder standard, and this was sort of released almost in secret. Well, not quite, but it didn't have the same fanfare like, for example, the Moon Swatch today, but these all seem to have sold out pretty damn quick, which was quite impressive, really. So, as I say, February 2020, full box and papers, additional straps, and just a crazy design. It's one you're either going to love or you're not. The hands are there. They're a bit difficult to see at times, but they are there. You can see the hour hand and the minute hand. The crown, because it's so small, you do have to proper get in there, but you can get the crown out and change the time as you'd expect. But just be warned, it is of quite a small crown, and there isn't a lot of gap, so you do need a bit of a nail, but you can get that out quite easily once you do. Let's show it on wrist and talk dimensions. And here it is on my 7-inch wrist. It's a beast, and it is a lot of fun. You're either going to like this or you're not. So what we're looking at is 45mm by 55.5mm lug to lug, 14.5mm thick, and 26mm at the lugs, obviously tapering down a little bit to the clasp. As I say, it comes with additional straps, and straps can be had from Swatch. So go check this one out on the website today. From there over to a Leico or Larco. People always tell me off for pronouncing it either way. I often get the other camp going, no, it's pronounced this way. No, it's whichever. Is that watch, and this is the 45mm. Really, really cool piece. Let's take a closer look. So next up we have the Leico Flieger in 45mm, known as the Replica 45 because it's deemed to be as close to the original as you can possibly get without getting the original. The reference to this one is 861951, and inside is a manually wound Leico caliber 04 as they call it. It's basically a ETA 7001 beating away inside there. Very reliable, well-used movement across the board. As you can see, the case is bead blasted or matte finished. I don't know what they call it specifically. You have a Flieger number on the side, as you would traditionally with the original Flieger watches, and this one's from circa 2020 with its booklets, no box unfortunately. Paired on its original Leico strap with its pin buckle, and it has the rivets on there as well. Very, very cool. And just a great design. Again, a big watch for a big wrist ideally, or someone who's really passionate about these vintage styled Flieger watches. Original Leicos like this, in the original format, you'll see I'm using both Leico and Larco just to please everyone. The original formats of this are very difficult to find, very expensive, obviously radioactive for the time as well, and sometimes steeped in difficult history to sort of bear with obviously the fact these were German military watches at the time. So something just to keep in mind, but a really cool piece of history nonetheless, and something we shouldn't forget. So let's show it on wrist and talk dimensions. And here we go, on my 7-inch wrist. It's a big watch, but at the end of the day, you had to see the time when you were flying, and also sometimes these would be strapped to your leg whilst you're flying, so that way you don't have to try and turn your wrist mid-combat or mid-flight or whatever it may be. So what you're looking at is 45mm by 53mm lug to lug, incredibly straight lugs as per the original, 12.5mm thick and 22mm on the lug, so you can swap this strap out if you so desire, but I think it suits it perfectly, and again is kind of true to the original. The original probably would have been longer, so you could strap it to your leg, or they had a different strap for that as well. So go check this one out on the website today. From there over to a limited edition Handhearts, a very, very cool looking watch. If you're into that stealth black look, this is definitely one for you with that sort of sand color dial. Really, really nice looking watch. Let's take a closer look. Next up, we have a Handheart limited edition, part of the Primus range, with this beautiful desert sand color in its dial and its strap and the all black case with the red highlights as you'd expect from Handhearts. Featured everywhere. Absolutely beautiful. Really, really cool piece. Limited to 100 pieces, and this one is number 25 out of 100. And this one's from August 2021 with its box and paperwork, including its little flip knife that it comes with. You'll see it in the photographs, which is also limited edition numbered. And yeah, it's unworn as well. Inside is the automatic Sellita SW510 inside that case, back with a modified rotor, as you can see, a very reliable chronograph movement that's used by a lot of brands. The strap is this really cool woven fabric with metal holes for the strap to go in. Just a really great looking watch. The reference I'm not going to bore you with, it's quite a long reference. You can go see that one on the website. But Handheart, again, another brand steeped in history and heritage, especially with the wars. So something to really read up on if you are interested. And this is sort of their modern take on what they would have done back in the day if they were around today doing the same sort of stuff, if that makes sense. A lot of brands are trying to do this. Very stealth looking watch. Screw down crown as well, something to point out. But let's show this one on wrist and talk dimension. And here we go, rested on my 7-inch wrist. Something to make a note of is they are hinged lugs, which helps with wearability if you have smaller wrists and larger wrists, because it means they can bend to the wrist shape a lot better. What you're looking at is 44mm by 54mm lug to lug, 16mm thick and 24mm on the strap. This is by no means a small watch. You do need a reasonable wrist to support this one, but it's a good looking watch, and again, value for money. If you're after something like this, it's quite great. So go check it out on the website today. From there over to a Helios Seaforth 3 in pastel blue, a really, really beautiful looking watch. Some people call it a Tiffany blue. I think it's more of a pastel blue, but hey, you can call it whatever you want. Let's take a closer look at this one. Next up, we have the Helios Seaforth in Seaforth 3 in pastel blue. I did a lot of stuttering then, I do apologise. This one's from circa 2018. It doesn't come with any box and paperwork. Something to keep in mind is these came with just like a cardboard carry box. They didn't really come with anything too grand, so you're not really missing out on much. Everything sort of went into the watch, and it's one thing Helios has always made sure to do, that most of the cost of what you're paying goes on the watch itself. The colour is absolutely fantastic, as you can see, and they're doing something I wish more brands would do, and that is a colour matched date window. As you can see down there at 6 o'clock, it makes it integrate to the case and the dial so much better, and I wish more brands did it. You feature black hands with white loom and black indices with white loom infill. Again, really beautifully done. Nice signed screw down crown with nice crown guards, which again help with the flow of the case as we flip it over. Simple case back with this serial number stated right there, and inside is the automatic ETA 2824-2, an absolute workhorse movement. I have paired it on a brown suede. Won't be to everyone's taste, but again, with a pastel blue colour like that, it's a bit difficult to sort of choose something very standard that most people will like. So I did my best, so I apologise if it's not quite for you. But let's show this one on wrist and talk dimensions. And here we go, comfortably on my 7-inch wrist. This is a great looking watch at 40mm by 46.5mm lug to lug, 12mm thick and 20mm on the lug. So endless options for this one. So don't worry about my strap pairing if you're not a fan. Go check this one out on the website today. From there over to a Seiko 1965 reinterpretation, the 62 MAS re-editions, the SPBs as they're often known as. A very, very good looking watch. This one often called a black dial. It is black, but it has feet sort of tones of brown as well. It's very nicely done. I'm a big fan of this one. Let's take a closer look. Next up, we have the Seiko 1965 reinterpretation of the original 62 MAS. This is the SPB 239J1, a really great looking piece on its original Seiko NATO strap. It does come with an additional strap as well in the box. The dial and the colour of this one is what really draws most people to it. You have this matte black bezel with the matte black dial, which in some lights looks brown, in some lights looks very, very dark black. It plays around, and you have the gold tone of the logo and the indices and everything like that, and the warm hue of the loom, which is sort of faux patinaed. Beautifully done. Nice screw down crown, as you'd expect. This crystal does feature a couple of hairline scratches. I don't know if they're going to pick up in this camera, so I apologize if not, but under the points of mention there is a link to additional photos. I've done my best to capture and circle them for you to see in the name of complete transparency, as we always do here at Kibble Watches. Inside is the automatic Seiko caliber 6R35, and this one's from November 2022 with its box and paperwork. A very good looking watch. Let's show it on wrist and talk dimensions. And here we go, comfortably on my 7-inch wrist. I'm really a big fan of this one with what I'm wearing today, although you can't really see it. I think it suits perfectly. So this is the 40.5mm by 47mm lug to lug, 13mm thick, not including the NATO strap underneath, so do keep that in mind. The NATO strap makes it wear thicker, and 20mm on the lug, so endless options, drilled lug holes to make strap changing really easy as well. So go check this one out on the website today. Now that leaves us to the 7 Fridays, and we're going to start with the biggest of the two, the Blade as it's called. What a cool nickname. Let's take a closer look at this one. Next up we have the 7 Friday Blade as it's called. What a beast this is, and again 7 Friday really flexing their design muscles and what they can do with the Miyota movements. It's one of the newer ones with the chip that you can use your phone for. I forget the name of it, so you'll have to forgive me. But yeah, really cool concept, cool design, and again for those people who like something a bit different, this is definitely for that person. So as I say, nicknamed the Blade, this is the W1/01. This one's from July 2021 with its paperwork, but no box, and inside is the automatic Miyota caliber 2S7, which has been heavily modified, as you can see. You have your running seconds over here with a little pointer showing it. You have your minute hand as standard that goes around the dial, and you can see your hours are displayed by that disc in a digital format. So a very cool watch. Nice proud crown, these interesting case markers as well, paired on a 7 Friday strap, as you can see, with yellow highlights which match perfectly to the yellow highlights on the dial. This again, as I said, is for someone who just wants something a bit different, something a bit futuristic, sort of the guys who like the HYTs and MB&Fs and those kind of things, but on a budget, because at the end of the day those things are mentally expensive and these are very affordable in comparison. So let's show it on wrist and talk dimensions. And here we go on my 7-inch wrist. Yes, this is a huge watch, but something to keep in mind is the lug to lug is quite short, so it wears wide but it wears short, so it actually does sit on the wrist surprisingly well, and that's something 7 Friday have always managed to achieve. So what you're looking at is 50mm by 46.5mm lug to lug, so way under that 50mm I always talk about. 15mm thick and 28mm on the lugs, so endless options from 7 Friday. They do plenty of different straps, but a beast for sure, and it looks far more expensive than what it is, you know, for those in the know. So go check this one out on the website today. From the Blade over to the Racer 3 in all black. Again, very sort of quintessential 7 Friday, this one. This is what I think of when I think of 7 Friday. Let's take a closer look. And last but by no means least, another 7 Friday. This time the Racer 3 in all black with the rubber cad case around the sides. Very cool piece, rubber sign crown as well, which just looks great. The overall design of this one is very quintessential 7 Friday in my opinion. The reference to this one is the P3C/02, and again inside the automatic Miyota caliber 82S7, modified for the features that you see, which is a running seconds with a little red disc floating around, which is very cool. And then you have your hours and your minutes as standard, as well as a 12-hour display counter over at 9 o'clock as well. As we flip it over again, you're presented with the modern 7 Friday way of checking authenticity and guarantee and all that sort of stuff. This one's from December 2020. It doesn't come with any box and paperwork, but as I say, you can use this to check everything. It comes on its original 7 Friday strap, which is this racing style, like a racing seat in black. Very cool with red stitching and a black buckle. Again, design-wise, you're either going to love them or you're going to hate them. I quite like 7 Friday. I've owned them in the past, and I actually have one myself, which I'll be bringing to the website soon, just because I know I'm not going to wear it often. I'm wearing a lot more vintage at the moment. So something like this, as fun as it is, it's not something I'm going to wear often. So let's show on wrist and talk dimensions. And here we go. On my 7-inch wrist, still a big watch, but a bit more manageable than the last one. This is 47.5mm by 46.5mm lug to lug, only 13.5mm thick, so again thinner than the last one, and again 28mm on the lugs. So endless options from 7 Friday, although this pairing I think works perfectly. So go check this one out on the website. So there you have it, guys and girls. This week's drop, 12 very varied and very incredible pieces, from stuff I think you're going to absolutely love to stuff that I know some of you are going to really dislike and others are going to absolutely love and really, really want. So that's exactly what we aim to bring here at Kibble Watches. I hope you've all enjoyed it. And next week we have an incredible lineup again, some really great pieces, including another Gerald Perregaux Laureato, a Unimatic, another Rolex, some Oris, an Omega Speedmaster Trilogy Edition. Some really, really great stuff. I think you guys and girls are going to really like next week's drop, including more Grand Seiko as well. We seem to get a lot of Grand Seiko, which is fun. So thank you all very much for watching. We'll see you all again next week. Take care.